Hello YouTube, Nathan Dewey here, doing my final thoughts on the Blade Runner Systems Alpha Beast first production run. I have owned this knife for 6 days now, and I feel that I have an adequate interpretation of how this knife handles, how it wears in, how it holds up in value, and just the general what to expect. Is it good? Is it bad? Let's find out. First, I'm going to talk about the wear, and this is after 6 days of use. Going to do some soft light flashlight testing on here. Alright. You will notice that the tumbled finish held up very well. I don't see any considerable scratches on it. The advantage of this stonewashing / tumbling is that it hides scratches a little bit better. I think I see maybe one little cluster of scratches right there, though I'm not entirely sure if that's just a part of the finish. Again, that's the beauty of stonewash. Okay. Check the latch ends, latch actuation. Notice that you have approximately the same amount of tension that you did when you first got it. The only real difference is that the action is a little bit smoother. You'll notice the latch has a little bit of a beaten up to it, but not horribly. Still functions. There's no real issues to speak of. The only thing that's worth mentioning is that in the closed position, if the latch is in the channel, there is a certain spot on the latch that if the latch kind of starts to come out and there's this much space in between the handles, there is this very slight amount of hang up. This is the result of burrs forming on the corners of the latch and the inside corners of the channel being slightly indented inward. This is to be expected on virtually any all-metal Balisong with a T-latch. The only difference is that this is titanium, so it's not going to be that big of an issue. It's lighter weight and it's less prone to impact. If this was a steel latch, then it would be a lot more beat up and it would actually be a serious problem. After fiddling with all of these screws, none of them have stripped. Typically when I thread lock a Balisong, it normally takes me about 2 or 3 applications just to get it right. Tightened all the way down, this is your preset play. Very acceptable, that's about as much as you would want. These do run on bushings, which means tightened all the way down, you have a free-flowing action. The action is very smooth. It's loose enough that it's free-flowing, but tight enough that it doesn't feel sloppy. It's worth mentioning that the safe handle slightly rubs on the spine, both sides. This is tightened all the way down. There is a slight rub mark on the blade side here, and I think here is very faint. It doesn't even look like a scratch, it looks just more like a smudge. But that's just a result of it loosening up. Right now it's tightened all the way down, so there's no rubbing right now. Let's see. Oh, you'll notice that I did resharpen this blade for my own purposes. It did come with a very nice sharp edge, and it was highly buffed, so it had what you would call a push edge for clean cutting. I just reprofiled mine because the tip was a little off center and just better suited my needs. Even with the swedge not being there, no swedge, the tip is prone to being blunted, so, again, use common sense, don't flip it over anything too hard, and, yeah, basic stuff. Flipping. For those who do not know the history of the original concept of this knife, the design, it was originally supposed to be an amalgamated design of 3 of the top best flippers. The Benchmade 42, the Cold Steel Archangel, and the Jerry Hom Basilisk. I have not handled the Basilisk. I have handled an Archangel, and naturally I own a 42. And I can tell you that from just overall feel and how it's handled so far, how it's worn in, it does have more tendency in feel towards an Archangel. The Archangel has this reputation of being a really tough as nails Balisong that's deceptively light. Same thing here. Not only is it weighted, but it's weighted in all the right places. It definitely feels different than any other Balisong I've handled. It does take some getting used to, depending on what you're used to and the skill level, but just like anything else, if you practice with it enough, it's easy enough to understand. If you get the rhythm down, this will do pretty much whatever you want it to do. I think it took me maybe 2 days to get the rhythm of this knife, so 2 days worth of just muscle training and getting familiar with a different type of Balisong. I think that's not bad. The weight, again, this is 5.1 ounces, which makes it a very nice medium weight in terms of encouraging muscle memory and strength testing, but at the same time being light enough that when you do mess up on it, it's still forgivable. All of the cuts that I've gotten on this knife have been just minuscule nicks. Nothing serious. Admittedly, they do sting more, but you still have full use of your finger, so that's a big plus right there. Ergonomics. I really do appreciate how this knife has used a very good combination of thick and thin and square and rounded. If you notice the shoulders of this knife, it's square up here near the tang area. This is meant to aid in chaplins and twirling, so it doesn't turn when you don't want it to turn. But through the rest of the knife, it's chamfered off in a way that it makes it more round. And it aids in stuff in fanding, meat grinders, cherry pickers. Now, granted, the 42 does have a fairly good combination of these things, having a square enough shoulders and still being kind of rounded, but sometimes if I'm doing a meat grinder or a cherry picker, there is a slight moment of hesitation where I've had to stall and make sure that I've rotated it correctly. Those who know what a cherry picker is, you know what I'm talking about. Again, I'm sorry if this is a little boring. I know you're used to seeing people flip, but I'm really in a restricted space, so I'm just gonna talk about it flipping. So, sorry if that's boring. Okay. What else? Guess we're going down to critiques. Okay. Back on the latch ends. It is a natural enough thing to have the latch be beat up, and which can cause a hang up. A really quick and really easy remedy, I think, is that if you take the safe handle and you take the inner corners right here and you slightly chamfer them, I think that would help. This will accomplish 2 things. A, it will help guide the latch in easier. and when the latch does get beat up like this, it's not going to have as much purchase to get hung up on. So I don't know how much that would cost on the but yeah, I think it is worth considering just to make something that's a little bit more durable, just more durable, you know, just a chamfer the inside here, make it so the latch doesn't get hung up no matter what. I think it's a good idea. The tank cups. Naturally, you can see that the pins have worn themselves in there. You can see the streak of steel contacting the titanium. Now, if you notice on this cup right here, it is slightly misshapen, and this was caused because the pin had to work its way in to fit properly. This is from one of two reasons. Either the tank cup was slightly off-center, or it wasn't big enough. There was a brief period when I was wearing this in that the blade, the tank pin, would snag on the tank cup, and it would interrupt the flow of flipping. I contacted Ed and Thonis about this, Lucifer about it, and I brought it to his attention. I told him that I think a good idea is to just make these tank cups a little bit taller, and when I mean taller, just not so much deeper, but just larger vertically. Like on the 42, you'll notice that it has relatively tall tank cups compared to the actual pin. There's extra room, so it doesn't snag. Okay, I talked about the tank cups, and yeah, action. Again, I really do enjoy the action of this knife, but if you were committed to just making something that's great a little bit better, I would consider making the bushings slightly shorter and the washers slightly thicker, just to help zero out the play, and so it doesn't rub up against the channel no matter what. So again, it's not sloppy, it's just that in the context of maybe a custom, even though this isn't a custom, but when you pay top dollar for a Balisong, typically you want something that's just silky smooth, and it and the blade doesn't rub. So I don't know, just a good idea, a good standard, a good example would be just to have slightly tighter tolerances in regards to the bushing system, and I'm talking about maybe 0.001 difference. Make the bushing that much shorter and the washers that much thicker. I think that would really zero out the play and just make something that is great just that much better. Again, something to consider, not a deal breaker, but it is what it is. Value. You can get these on Blade HQ for $370. All the pre-orders have filled up, but you can still put it on your wish list. Is it worth it? Considering the current Balisong market, yes, absolutely. Yes, it is one of the higher end, the more top dollar Balisongs. You're definitely going to pay for it, but you do get more value, especially considering how your average 4X Balisong goes for approximately that same amount of money, if not more, like maybe $400 depending on the model. And considering how this has bushings and this just has washers, and this is just good all around. This is specialized in terms of weight and dimensions. If I had to pick one or the other, I would still have to go with the Alpha Beast. This will probably be the closest thing I have right now to a Grail knife. If I'm ever in a condition where I have to sell off my collection, this will be the absolute last one to go. Alright, that's my final thoughts on the Blade Runner Systems Alpha Beast. I'm glad you took the time to watch this video with me. Continue to support BRS, continue to keep them accountable, and continue to support the Balisong community. Thanks for looking. Take care.